Hello, eighth graders. This marks day 3. Today is September 18th. It's actually the 17th because I'm filming this a day ahead, but you are watching this on the 18th. And we just finished up First Chapter Friday. And today our mini lesson is going to be focused on our draft and making sure that we're focusing on ourselves and our theme versus the events that happen to us. And we're going to use one of our anchor texts within our mentor text packet. So let's go ahead and look at our learning target. We're going to use expert writers examples to communicate theme and show that memoir writing is more focused on the writer rather than the event. So just kind of what I was talking about. So we're going to jump right in because I want today to be a day of drafting rather than a full day lesson. So we're going to try and keep this under 10 minutes today. So the piece that we're going to look at is by Jean Little. It's right in like the third page of your mentor text packet, and it starts off with "This is Jean Little." And so I'm going to switch over to my dot cam here in just a second, but before we do that, these are the things that we want to be looking for. We're going to be asking ourselves things like, what is she really trying to say? What is she saying about herself in this piece? Because it's a really small moment of when she moves to a new school. And then, like, what does she want readers to know about her? And how does this show us the theme of the piece? So those are going to be the things that we keep in mind. And I'm just going to annotate as I go. And I invite you to do that along with me. This will be the only text that you really have to look at as far as assignment goes. You are welcome to look through and look at pieces that we read yesterday, but this is really going to be the only one we do together today. So I'm going to switch over to this dot cam and we're going to read and look for these questions that you can see here. So here we go. Starts off by saying, "This is Jean Little. My teacher told the class. She led me to a desk." I know I'm not necessarily looking for this, but I am noticing dialogue. So it's just something to note, because we know that even though we're focused on theme, it's still good to notice other literary techniques that we've talked about and that we notice as we read. "This is Pamela, Jean," she said, smiling at the girl on the desk next to mine. I smiled at her too. Pamela's cheeks got pink. I looked away. I thought, excuse me, I'm losing my voice today. I sat down, or I thought I knew what was wrong. She was shy. I sat down and waited for lessons to start. I was glad that reading was first. We notice here, this is kind of in some internal thinking. And I noticed that my camera is blocking where I'm. There you go. Now you guys can see. So this is internal thinking. She's taking a moment because here's the action, right? This is the event. And then this is where we're starting to see how she really feels. And so we're learning about her through her inner monologue or her narrating, because this is her now, right? This is all in past tense. And so she's reflecting on this incident. So internal thinking is a really great tool to use and to like splice into the action. It goes on to say, "When it was my turn to read out loud, I held the book up to my nose as usual. The other giggled. The teacher hushed them. Then she turned to me. 'Are those your reading glasses?' she asked. I was not sure. I snatched the glasses off and switched, but I still had to hold my book so close to my nose, so close that my nose brushed up against the page. Everybody stared. Nobody noticed my good reading." So I want to note here, so everybody stared. Nobody noticed my good reading. Everyone stared is like an action. That's something that happened. No one noticed my good reading. This is her thinking. So one of the things we want to do is continue to track that thinking as we see. That afternoon, the teacher left the room. Monica pointed at me. "Look," she crowed. "She's got black all over her nose." I clapped my hand to my face. The class burst into peals of laughter. They only broke off when the child nearest the door hissed. "Shh, she's coming." When the teacher walked into the room, I longed to tell, but I didn't. I knew tattletales were despised by everyone. I spat on the corner of the handkerchief and scrubbed my short nose until it felt raw. But a red nose was better than a nose smudged with printer's ink. So again, this is internal thinking. I'm going to write reflection here. And this last line here where it says, "but a red nose was better than a nose smudged by printer's ink." Right? She's telling us that basically she would rather have almost like pain on her nose than have others think that she's a bad reader or that she's different, right? So we're starting to see that like this realm of thinking but a red nose was better than a nose smudged with printer's ink, that she started to feel differently about herself, right? So I'm going to note that. Because she'd never noticed it before, right? She wouldn't have cared in her old school or whoever she was around prior. So I'm going to note and maybe come back to that because that might be a reoccurring thing that we see here. The next morning, nobody sat with me at break. So now we have a time shift, right? A transition the next morning. It's a good example of a transition to let us know that the day has changed and that we're going to be getting some different action. That afternoon, another transition, Jane waved her hand before my face. So time moved really quickly there in just that one sentence, right? Whereas in this moment up here, we spent paragraphs with dialogue. So it's okay for time to move quickly to get to the next section. How many fingers am I holding up? 3, I said. She had been holding up 3, but the minute I spoke, she popped up one more and pushed her hand within an inch of my nose. Wrong, she jeered and hooted with laughter. That's mean, Jane, Pamela said. She marched over and gave me half her orange. When I smiled at her, though, she backed away. She had a kind heart, but she did not want to be turned into an outsider, too. Again, this is her thinking. We don't know that. Pamela's not the author of our story. She's not the narrator, so we don't know if that's actually what Pamela was thinking. This is an inference that our author made, right? And again, it's more like author thoughts. I was shocked and bewildered by their scorn, right? So she's talking about her emotions. Nobody had made me feel I looked peculiar when I held things up close. Nobody until now. I really like this sentence structure and then the repetition of the word nobody. If we think about our lesson yesterday, nobody had made me feel I looked peculiar when I was when I held things up close. Nobody until now. I was gradually learning that if you were different, nothing good about you mattered. And I had not really understood until now that I was different. And so this last paragraph, she doesn't come out and say, here's my theme, right? But we know that's what we were getting at. If we go back up here to this paragraph where she says, but a red nose was better than a nose smudged with printer's ink, we see that she's starting to feel differently. She's self-conscious about what just happened and that she has to read with things up close to her face. And so down here at the bottom, she revisits that idea and flat out tells us that she's different and that she learned, right? She even uses the word learned. I was gradually learning that if you were different, nothing good about you mattered. And I had not really understood until now that I was different. So that's one thing that you want to be thinking about when you go into your own writing today. So again, there's not really a new assignment of reading. Your goal is you're going to go into your own writing, right? Because we answered these questions about Jean, right? What is she really trying to say? Well, that being different is scary. It's not, it's, people treat you differently and that anything good that you do doesn't matter because people focus on the differences. And I don't know if that's necessarily true all the time, but that was true for her then. And it does happen, right? And so if we go into our own writing then, this is the slide that I want us to focus on. So during your workshop time, today is the day you're going to type, right? Get excited. You'll find the assignment titled Memoir 1. It's going to look something like this. Okay, it has everything ready for you and in place. And so all you have to do is make changes to like first name and last name, put your title, and then get started, and then put your block, right? Because it goes your name, my name, block, ELA, subject, date, and then title, and get started. Draft your memoir. So this should be your work from yesterday, plus revisions based on our voice and theme work from yesterday and today. You want to be asking yourself these questions over here, right? So what is it that I really want to say? What am I trying to say about myself in this piece? So it's not just about the events, it's how you're reacting and what you're learning about yourself and what you want the reader to know. What do I want my readers to know about me and how am I communicating theme? You want to be very thoughtful and how you interweave those big ideas of being different, right? For Jean, it was being different, and whatever your big idea might be. So an example would be like if you're telling a story about a basketball game, you're not going to focus on, the points scored or the action there. You might focus on how you felt when you were walking up to the free throw line, and how your palms were sweaty and your mind was racing, right? And how all this pressure that you were putting yourself. So like from you, from your peers, from your coach, from your parents, whoever. And so you're going to talk about that feeling rather than what actually happened. It's your thoughts on what happened. And so then you'll want to add things like internal thinking or monologue, which we saw a lot of from Jean. Asides, and aside is just where you give a kind of an explanation of something off to the side, if you will. Reflection, and then you can break the fourth wall. And so breaking the fourth wall is when you talk directly to the audience, like who was it yesterday? Amy Rosenthal did when she said, "Hi, Dave," when she was talking about her husband, right? So that's when you can break the fourth wall. So that is your job today. Now, in just a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of time to start drafting, but then we'll start to talk about notebook check number 1. I'm going to give you a full 30 minutes to submit your notebook check, and we'll go over that together. But this is just the slide to remind you that these are the 4 things that we're going to be looking for, plus if you want to go above and beyond what you have to do. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Otherwise, start drafting your memoir. Again, it's the work that we've been doing over the course of the last few days, and use all these things that we are learning and have talked about. All right, good luck. Happy writing.